5 Canadians will suffer a mental illness.
Suicide is the second leading cause of death amongst our youth.
Families are affected by mental illness regardless of race, education, or socioeconomic status.
The Canadian Mental Health Association, Simon Fraser Branch, works to promote healthy minds in healthy communities.
Hope and recovery from mental illness starts by giving support.
There is no health without mental health.
In 1930, the female chronic building opened and became known as East Lawn. Within months, hundreds of women were admitted. By 1937, there were 4,000 people living and working on the hospital grounds every day. The hospital grew to become a town with its own postmark, Essendale.
I started there in the nursing department when I was in grade 11, like I just finished grade 11, and I just turned 16 in the March, and it was July the 1st that I started up on F3, and they had 110 patients in one day room and 80, I think it's about 86 in the other day room. And the office was the glassed-in corner of the big day room, the 110. I remember within the first month of my being, I was on F3, which was one of the very large wards in East Lawn. And as I say, that was that first summer when I didn't have any knowledge of psychiatry or anything like that. But I'd been told these patients that stood against the wall or stood against the post and didn't move for days and days and days that were catatonic, so I heard that. But this one lady, and they had a long gown that they wore. I remember she kept pulling it up over her head, right up over her head, and yelling and putting it down again, you know. Anyway, I went up to her and I told her, you know, not to do that, you see. So she let the dress slip down like that, and it grabbed me right at the top of my hair like this, and she got all my hair like this, and then she flipped me over on my back, so my feet were sticking up like this, and then she started merrily off around the day room. And if you can imagine, it was a huge day room, if you can get 110 patients in there, you know. And my feet were going bob, 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 and she's hanging on to my hair like this, merrily going around. And but some of the patients that were, you know, much better, and we relied on those because we didn't have enough staff. And the 3 or 4 of them ran out, you know, and grabbed her and managed to get her to let go of my hair. But the yelling that was going on at that time, the nurses in their glassed-in cage, as I called it, the office, heard it, and they came roaring out, the charge nurse and everybody. And they said, okay, we've got her, you know. And then they said to me, into the office. No trouble telling me to get in the office. I ran off and got into the office. And the charge nurse came in, and she says, well, don't stand there, she says. Get in the washroom. She says, wash your face, comb your hair. And but tears were running down my face from having my hair pulled, you know. And so I went in there and did the best I could with myself and came out, and she said, oh, that looks better. She said, okay, out in the day room. So you can see it took courage and compassion to work there, because there was no medications for the poor patients, none whatsoever, except for formaldehyde, not formaldehyde, formaldehyde. And they put them to sleep, but it had a foul aroma, because when you came on duty in the morning, you could be at the far end of the ward, and you'd say, oh, somebody was in trouble last night. You could smell it as you opened the ward door.
On November 16, 1949, the Crease Clinic of Psychological Medicine was opened with great fanfare. It was a state-of-the-art institution where the focus was on individual care and short-term hospitalization.
And I remember Dr. Crease says, it's a chemical imbalance within the brain. And he said, but you can't get some of those old staff to believe that. He said, they say, huh, how can that be? They're just crazy. You know, it's if craziness was like measles. You got it or you didn't get it. I mean, they didn't know how you got it or what. They just accepted that that was it, you see. And so anyway, Dr. Kreis, of course, became very famous and for his ideas and they named the Kreis Clinic after him and put those type of patients that he was working on in there and everything. But there was always a hope that they could go out in those days, you know, that they could get better and go out. I think the things that weren't helpful and that were bad were mostly from overcrowding, and sometimes patients were put into side rooms and that because other people were afraid of them, and perhaps they could have come out earlier. That would upset you as a staff, but you know, if you're not making those decisions, you've got to learn, you live with them, you know. And in the end, you know, I used to say they have pub night once a week. They can go to the hairdresser. They can go to the barber. All their birthdays are celebrated. They get clothes. They can go to the store and get clothes, or the clothes can be brought in for them. They can shop in the catalogs. They have an allowance to spend. They had a dance once a week for them. There were all those things. The patients that were on the gangs that went out to work on the grounds. Now, that a lot of people don't understand. They say, oh, you put those mental patients to work out there, you know, like that. Say, they were somebody. They were still working when the other people were too ill to work. And somebody thought of me. They've given me proper clothes for the rain and the snow and the wind. And I'm still working in the world. They still need me. I have a job compared to the other patients.
What were the ladies doing?
Oh, they would go into occupational therapy because they had sewing machines. And they did a lot of the sewing for different things. And then they also had things where they sold them like for Christmas decorations and different things like that, occupational therapy.
When did the working stop?
Well, when they got this new idea that you know, that they shouldn't be put to work and that they should be in having medications and things like that.
Kay worked 2 summers at Riverview as an on-call nurse's aide. Then she would study nursing at the Royal Columbian Hospital in New Westminster. She married and had a family, but returned to Riverview in 1973, where she remained until her retirement in 1988.
That is the difference, I would say, between the early part of the hospital and the latter part, was that they had much more personal freedom in the last few years. They could go out wherever they wanted on the grounds.
Historically, asylum care in British Columbia has benefited from full funding and government support. Providing a therapeutic environment and a home for the mentally ill was an essential healthcare goal of the provincial government and the community. In the 1980s, as the deinstitutionalization movement took hold, this commitment waned.
How did you feel, Kay, when they were slowly shutting things down in Riverview?
Well, I felt very sad because I felt that they weren't keeping them like they did at one time to, you know, for the rest of their life. Now they were keeping them to care for them and to medicate them and look after them. And when they get to that point, then they close the wards and they won't admit any more people. They say, oh, the doctor can do it, and they can live with their family or live on the street or something. And they just have to remember to go to the doctor. But who's going to remember when you're that ill? Katie, you're the one that I adore. Katie, Katie, la 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 da 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 da. That's it.
I've left myself open. Now that I'm broken, can't let you go. Open, I've left myself open. Now that I'm broken, I can't let you go. Who'll be the first to cave and give up their position? Oh, be like a child. Tell me that you love me. Say what you mean, it's not gonna harm you. Darling, 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 it's just something I got to say. Please forgive me, don't go away, no, no. 'Cause I still love you, and I'm not gonna turn my back on you, no, no. Oh, darling, 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 it's better this way, yeah. Open, I've left myself open. Now that I'm broken.
Visit simonfraser.cmha.bc.ca to learn more and find out how you can help.
I've left myself open. Now that I'm broken, can't let you go. Open, I've left myself open. Now that I'm broken, I can't let you go. Who'll be the first to cave?
Visit simonfraser.cmha.bc.ca to learn more and find out how you can help.